you folks ready? Ready to go?
Yes.
Okay, we're ready? Here we go. Good morning, my name is Fred Keeley. I'm the mayor of the city of Santa Cruz. Almost every day that is a joy and a pleasure. The last few days it has been a challenge, as you might imagine. The good news is when we lost the first 150 feet of our wharf, our city team, whether it was parks, public works, police, fire, etc., stood up, did exactly what they needed to do in the heat of the moment. They have done that every moment since then, including up to this moment. And so I want to thank and appreciate all of the folks in public service in the city of Santa Cruz. Also, our partners, the county, the state, everyone who steps in these kinds of moments and helps us try to return a very significant degree of public safety to our world here. It is a challenging moment in the city of Santa Cruz, but we are still in a portion of the heat of the moment. We have more coming our way, we know that, and we are going to give you a briefing this morning on what we're doing with regard to the stability of the wharf, our relationships with our tenants on the wharf, with regard to the public safety issues around cleanup of the debris and so on. Be glad to answer your questions. We're going to start with our city manager, Matt Huffaker.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. Just by way of background, on December 23rd at approximately 12:45 p.m., due to one of the largest swell events that Santa Cruz has experienced in decades, we lost approximately 150 feet at the end of our municipal wharf. I think it's important to also note that this area was already closed. It's been closed since December of 2023 due to damage that this area sustained in past storm events as well. So our wharf has really just continued to be battered winter after winter over the course of the last few years. And due to this extremely powerful swell, this west swell that we experienced earlier this week, this section of the wharf just was not able to sustain the storm system that we experienced. During this event, we had 3 construction workers that were on site actively working to repair this area of the wharf. Those 3 individuals ended up in the water through the course of this collapse. Fortunately, through the swift action of our rescue swimmers and our local lifeguards, all 3 were brought to safety without sustaining any major injuries. I know that folks are anxious to see the wharf reopen. We have over 24 businesses that really depend on their livelihoods operating on the wharf, particularly during the holiday season. Those businesses have about 400 employees that depend as part of their livelihood on these businesses reopening. However, we cannot reopen the wharf until we know that it's safe to do so. That really hinges on a completion of a structural assessment of the current structural integrity of the wharf. We are hoping to complete those assessments in the coming days, with our goal to reopen the wharf as soon as possible when we have confidence that we can do so safely. I want to also just reiterate that as a result of the collapse, we have a significant debris field that is currently extended as far south as 10 miles south of Santa Cruz. That debris cleanup will be a monumental effort, including many other partner agencies, including state parks, the National Marine Sanctuary, Cal OES, the Coast Guard, County Sheriff's Office, and many others. So we are actively engaged with those other agencies as we work towards comprehensive removal and environmental mitigation resulting from that large debris field. So while that work is underway, I want to again just encourage our community and those visiting our area to really stay clear of those areas. They pose a significant safety risk to our community and to our visitors. And we really need our construction crews on site to be able to do that important work so that we can safely reopen our beaches. And we'll have more updates for you with regards to beach reopening here in a moment. So those are some quick updates. I want to again applaud the work of our city staff. This has been really a minute-by-minute response over the course of the last several days. Our fire department, our parks crew, our wharf crew, have been doing incredible work, both to preserve our infrastructure, but also to keep our community safe in the meantime. So with that, I want to give our Parks and Rec Director, Tony Elliott, an opportunity to provide some updates as well. And then we're happy to take questions as we wrap things up here today.
All right, good morning. For the record, my name is Tony Elliott. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation for the City of Santa Cruz. Parks and Recreation includes the Santa Cruz Wharf operations. So the crew that's out here, the Wharf crew, part of the Parks and Recreation Department. And I wanted to start by acknowledging the incredible work of the Wharf crew in response to this incident. But really, this is a team of approximately 12 full-time folks, many temporary folks. They work on the wharf year-round. This is a structure and asset to the city of Santa Cruz that we maintain with passion, with dedication. It's been a really difficult week, but I just want to give my compliments to the Wharf crew, both in this moment, but year over year, that maintain this structure. A lot going on right now, but I want to start with the communication and partnership with the businesses on the wharf. So there are approximately 20 businesses on the Santa Cruz Wharf, including recreation businesses, retail, and restaurants. We have a close relationship and partnership with those restaurants and businesses, and through this incident, we continue that communication, that partnership, and we're working closely with the businesses to make sure they have opportunities to get onto the wharf safely right now, to secure their spaces, make adjustments to restaurants for perishable goods, make sure that their spaces are safe and secure. The Wharf is an important place, we all know. It brings in about 2 million visitors per year. During the holidays in particular, this is a really important time, both for the businesses on the Wharf, but for our community as well. Traditions are built here. This is a place where we experience our National Marine Sanctuary. So the Wharf is incredibly important, and to that end, we are communicating, working very closely with our partners, our businesses, on again, securing the space in the near term, but also working toward a reopening plan as we move forward. I want to talk a little bit about the construction at the end of the wharf. So the wharf, the very end of the wharf, has been closed since January of 2024. It's been closed as a result of the damage sustained from the storms last year, 2023 and 2024. So the end of the wharf has been closed for almost a year. It's been under construction. Our construction timeline, our construction window was from September through March. Some folks have asked why September to March? Why were we working in December? We are bound by a number of permits and regulations, part of which is through the California Coastal Commission that regulates our ability to do major project work and maintenance on the wharf. So our project window was between September and March to do work to recover the end of the wharf. That's a challenging time of year, as we know, because of these type of swell events and storms. We had a 6-month period to do the work. We started in September, and we were in the midst of that work here in December with a target to complete the work in March. So as part of the environment that we work in, we're limited on when we can do that project work, and so that's the reason that we've been working in this winter time frame. Happy to answer any questions on that as well. Lastly, I just wanted to mention that as part of the debris field, we've lost a number of memorial benches and other commemorations from the wharf. We know those have moved to other beaches, state beaches throughout the county. And we just ask the community and the public, if you find those commemorations and memorials, some of which are very personal to families and community members, please contact the City Parks and Recreation Department at recreationevents@santacruzca.gov or call us at 831-420-5270. You'll get a lot of memorial benches lost in the wharf collapse. We just asked our community to work with us closely to try to retrieve those and get those back to Parks and Recreation so we can get those back to the families who lost those. Thank you all. Happy to answer any questions.
I would also like to do 2 other things real quickly. I'd like to acknowledge our wharf crew. Please. A lot of good folks around here on the wharf crew. We appreciate your work. Chief Odie, thank you very much, sir. Fire department, all of your good work. I also want to acknowledge, I saw a member of the elected member of the Port Commission, Toby, and want to express our heartfelt condolences about what's happening over at your public agency, and we're going to work together to get that fixed. I want to introduce Scott Newsom, City of Santa Cruz. 2 years ago, districted the City of Santa Cruz. We now have 6 council members elected by district and 1 directly elected citywide mayor. The first directly elected city council member for this district is Scott Newsom.
Thank you, Mayor. Scott Newsom, I represent District 4 on the Santa Cruz City Council. I just want to very quickly thank staff for their quick response on Monday and how they handled the event when it occurred. I also want to thank our state partners and federal partners for quickly reaching out and offering help during this time. The Wharf is a cherished and iconic asset for the city of Santa Cruz. We are working diligently to ensure that the structure is safe and so that we can open it as soon as we can. To then, I just ask everyone to heed the public safety warnings that they've heard today, especially stay away from the beaches on Monday. Thank you.
Glad to take questions.
The construction workers, were they city workers or were they contractors? Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, the workers that were on the wharf when it collapsed, there was 1 city employee and the others were contractors. So everybody is okay, no major injuries sustained. They were out there not doing construction work. These were really our project managers, our project leads who were doing their normal inspection on Monday when the wharf collapsed.
What business were those contractors?
Power engineering.
Question for you, sir. You have 47 years of construction, mostly working around cranes and heavy equipment. Kind of confused with all the technology you have, the infrared, knowing as well as knowing that projects have weekly safety meetings, up to date, keeping things up to date, get the project. When I first saw this go down, the first thing that came to my mind was why was the equipment in all live loads, which is anything that could be removed, that contains weight, taken off the wharf or moved back on it where it's in the parking lot. Not saying that it
Got a question?
not saying that it would be more from falling in.
Okay, who else has got a question? That's a speech. You got a question?
Is the city of Santa Cruz going to provide immediate assistance to the business owners for any kind of assistance for other workers? Most of them are Latinos, they're looking to provide for their families during these holidays. So what kind of assistance will you guys need?
Yeah, the city is working closely with businesses to find different ways to support, whether in the near term to gain access to the wharf and their businesses to secure property, but also bigger picture in considering most of the spaces on the wharf are leased to tenants. So the city is considering different ways to support the businesses as a whole. As far as the employees of the business, there are approximately 400 employees of businesses that work on the wharf, and so different ways the city is looking to work with those businesses and support the employees. But it's not just the city. Other organizations in the area are also here to support. So Community Bridges is one with resources to help support employees of the businesses on the wharf. Also, the Community Foundation of Santa Cruz County is another one that we're in communication with to help support employees.
I'm going to ask, I think I'm going to ask what the gentleman was referring to, and I feel obligated to ask as a longtime West Side resident. A lot of residents on social media are asking why there is so much heavy equipment at the end of the work, knowing that this incredible snow is coming up.
Yeah, so during the event on Monday, the wharf collapse, and prior to that event, the city was in close communication with our contractors, talking about our safety plans, talking about the risk at the end of the wharf because it was under construction. It had been damaged in previous year storms. We knew it was a vulnerable spot. That's why it was under construction. We're working to replace and stabilize the wharf. We knew this well was coming in. We had all of our teams, public safety, various stakeholders from within the city assessing all the conditions at the wharf, but more broadly as they impacted our beaches and so forth. So safety plans were in place, items were secured on the wharf. We consulted with our expert engineering team as well, just to be as best prepared as we could be for the incident on Monday. What I would say again is that the incident on Monday was really the largest swell that we've seen in 30 years. So that combined with the end of the wharf being under construction and really damaged and weakened from previous year storms, that was really a vulnerable point. So what we've seen is the remainder of the wharf, we generally feel very confident and it's strong and stable. But we're not just relying on that assumption. We're working with engineers to do further assessments and evaluations to make sure, in the spirit of public safety, that we know the wharf is strong and stable before we reopen.
Have they had any thought to perhaps removing the equipment when you were discussing the safety plan? Did the topic come up, should we or should we not remove the equipment?
The construction team at the end of the wharf, we worked with our project manager and power engineering. All of that was part of the safety plan and preparations going into the storm. So much of the equipment was secured. There was, again, a detailed safety plan, knowing that the conditions were going to be challenging with the swell event. So the team was well prepared, did everything in their ability and power to secure the site.
So it was the nature of the swell, as in it was a historic 30-year swell, and that's why you think it led to the failure and the loss of equipment as opposed to, you know, want to really remove it?
That's correct. The wharf collapse really was a result of two things. An historic swell event, the largest swell that we've seen in 30 years, coupled with the fact that the end of the wharf had been damaged in the past year and more. So part of the construction project that was underway, we were replacing around 70 pilings. We had replaced through the construction project approximately between 20 and 30 pilings already, but there was a lot more work to do to stabilize the wharf as we work toward project completion in March. So the fact that we've been hit by previous year storms, coupled with a historic swell event, that was really the result, or resulted in the damage in the wharf.
So when you say security and the architectural assessment,
Hold on. This is a press conference, so we're going to take press questions. You've had one. You got a question?
Hillary, go with the review. I was wondering, you were saying that this is a 30-year historic swell, but there were also storms last winter and storms the winter before. Given the fact that these storms are becoming more regular, we're seeing bigger waves, higher winds, should the city be spending more money to repair the end of this year, or should it be doing some sort of
Well, you're going to get a couple answers on that question.
I think that is the question of the day. I don't think we can speak with any confidence at this point as to whether rebuilding that section of the wharf is feasible or the appropriate thing to do in light of the increased frequency and power of these storm events that we're experiencing along our coastline. So we've got some hard conversations and some hard decisions we're going to have to make as we move out of this initial emergency response phase. Again, right now our immediate concern is getting the balance of the wharf open and our businesses operating again as soon as possible. But longer term, we will be having a lot of discussions with our city council and our outside experts around what this new normal looks like when it comes to the wharf and our new coastal reality.
I think that what we're using here in terms of, if you will, the technology or the strategy is we're using something that's thousands of years old. There have been piers and wharfs for thousands and thousands of years. This is about the oldest technology you can think of. And so this is not the technology that meets the challenges here today or that are coming our way due to climate change. And so I think it's a fair question. Nobody's made a decision yet, but we'd be irresponsible if we didn't ask the question, what is the right thing to do here? Do you take 300-400 feet off of this, pull it back and widen it out, and get out of the open ocean? Do you do that? What is it you do? But to say we're simply going to put it back is, I think, much more risky and frankly irresponsible than having a very serious conversation. We're not by ourselves on this. Every coastal community in the world has some version of this conversation going on. And so we're a community that is going to look forward. We value this. That's not the issue of whether or not we value it. We do. The businesses, the tourist attraction, the charm, the character of it, all of that is wonderful. That's very different then the question of what does climate change mean when I've said it before, you've got a basically mile-long commercial roadway over open ocean. You've got to ask the question if that's the right thing to keep doing, and if so, in what way?
I think it's also important to note that the city has had plans in place since 2015 to shore up and bolster the wharf. As part of our wharf master plan and recovery plans, we have projects that have been ready to go that could have prevented this most recent collapse. We'll never know for sure, but we do know that the delays of our master plan, largely due to lawsuits against the city that slowed down those important investments, have left our wharf more vulnerable. So our hope is that we can get back to work, get those projects moving as soon as we can, get our businesses back in operation. But it is certainly an inflection point as we think about where we go from here, given that we're going to continue to see increased frequency, these powerful storms coming through as part of our new coastal reality in Santa Cruz.
The lawsuit related to the wharf itself, or just the lawsuit to the county against the money out of the general fund?
Lawsuit related to the wharf itself, including a lawsuit that came through related to the environmental impact report, which prevented the city from moving forward with implementing all aspects of the plan.
Was that because the court ruled against the lawsuit, or what prevented you from doing the work?
Well, the litigation itself took quite some time. Again, some of this is dating back to 2015. We just recently received a court decision in the last couple of years that has allowed us to move forward. As part of that decision, there were changes that were directed in the environmental impact report that also further delayed. And ironically, one of those changes was sufficiently addressing where the sea lion viewing holes would be moved. Those sea lion viewing holes are no longer there as part of this collapse. So again, not the only factor involved here. As Director Elliott mentioned earlier, we're also contending with damage from recent storm systems, as well as one of the strongest swells we've seen on record. That certainly influenced it, but we would have been in a stronger position had we been able to move forward with some of those projects in a more timely manner.
Since this is a workplace incident, possible for economic relief for businesses.
We have met or in contact with our member of Congress, as well as our United States Senators. Congressman Panetta was here yesterday, did a tour. He has offered us a kind of assistance he always does, which is on point in a timely manner as best he can, which is pretty darn good every time. So we're getting support. We want to be careful. We don't have. We need this money for this, and this money for this. But the people who are able to do that have been very forthcoming in offering their assistance in coming out there.
Since this is a workplace incident, are there any state agencies involved in this overall investigation? Maybe trying to determine how this happened, what happened? Cal OSHA comes to mind.
Cal OSHA, there will be many state agencies involved in evaluating the circumstances around this incident in the coming days and weeks. Again, our immediate priority is moving towards the reopening of the wharf and reopening of our beaches and ensuring that we can do so safely. But of course, we'll be engaged with federal and state partners as we unpack the situation going forward.
So on the reopening, can you walk us through what work has to be done to actually get it reopened? And then I know you were saying as soon as possible, but is there any even ballpark or rough timeline that could be looking at here?
Yeah, there's two critical path items. The first is removal of the heavy equipment that fell into the ocean as a result of the incident. We're working with Power Engineering, the contractor on the project, as well as other salvage experts as to how best to do that. That's priority number one. That heavy equipment potentially jeopardizes the stability of the rest of the wharf. So that's really where our focus has been. Second to that is completing an initial structural integrity assessment, working with engineering firm that we've worked with in the past to come out and really determine whether the balance of the wharf is safe to re-enter and access, and how we might best do that in a phased approach. So those are the two critical path items that we're hoping to complete in the coming days.
Will you give the businesses a break on the rent while they're closed?
Sorry?
Will you give the businesses a break on the rent while they're closed?
We've been in discussions with the businesses as to how to help soften the blow here. We know that being closed, especially during the holidays, is less than ideal. As Director Elliott had mentioned, we've also connected our businesses with some of the organizations here locally who are providing direct dollars to the employees that are impacted as well. So doing what we can, and obviously some potential offset on the rent is part of the discussion. We don't have a definitive time frame at this time. Our hope is weeks, but we do not have anything definitive at this point.
Can you talk about the process of the debris? If I know the rest of them, you guys are posting this together. Let's talk about what the process is like, how that's going to be like for piece by piece and the rest of the debris as well.
Sorry, my ear popped. Out by the beach. Yeah, so from the Wharf collapse on December 23rd, it impacted, it created a lot of debris from that collapse. So we know the debris field is spread across an area as far as about 10 miles down to Manresa State Beach. The city's in very close communication with the County Emergency Operations Command, as well as a number of allied agencies throughout the region. So state parks, Cal OES, U.S. Coast Guard, working with a number of agencies on next steps on that cleanup. So how this will work is through the county's Emergency Operations Command. We will identify likely a singular contractor to initiate that work across the region. So we're working, again, jointly with those partners to make sure that we are responding as quickly as we can. The next priority beyond public safety in this case is the quality and impact to our environment. So we want to make sure that there's not a greater impact or results from the situation. So working closely, very expeditiously to make sure that we can get the area cleaned up, again, through that collaboration with partners.
So is it the city removing the restroom right now, or is that a contract?
The city is currently removing or working toward removing the restroom from the San Lorenzo River mouth currently.